Hi Gautam, welcome to the podcast. For the viewers, I know Gautam from my engineering days. We were batchmate. I was in electronics and Gautam was in electrical. And from then, Gautam moved on into different career option. He did his MBA from XIMB and currently working as a product manager. So before we get into the conversation, I would like Gautam to give a small brief into what he is doing and how his career transitions and choices have been, and then we can continue. So
Right.
Gautam, over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Ankesh. So hi all. Thanks, Ankesh, for having me here in this podcast. So as I said, I'm working as a product manager in procurement space for Shell Chemicals. So I was working as a business analyst at Shell prior to this, and that time I worked with a lot of business users, a lot of process experts and architects for almost 4 years. So that helped me to understand the ground processes, the concepts, the end users requirements, the mindset. So I think that helped me to do a good product management and how the product should take its shape. And now I'm working to develop the procurement process development as a product manager, and that's how it is going right now for the Shell Chemicals business.
So Gautam, let's get into what is product management for you. Like, what is your day to day working like, as a product manager? What are the things that you do every day, so that any somebody who is not as familiar with the role, he'll have an understanding what you actually do.
Right. So this that's a very good question to start with, Ankesh. So this product management, product mindset is something buzzing in the last 2 to 3 years that you can see. And So what I do is, as a product manager, my intention is to make the product a stable one with uh, to give a right advantage to my business users to perform their activities, to get edge over their competitors and do better. So eventually we have to succeed in their life, right? So my success would lie in their success. How well the business users perform their activities, how can they outbeat their competitors and do well. That's how I get. So to do that, what I do in day-to-day life is how some connects with the end users. We have different process experts, process architects, etc. Right? So these are different touch points or the stakeholders we call in product management terminology, and we prepare a product backlog. So we have a certain framework called product management framework. In the framework, we have got a lot of things like a product vision, and based on the vision, we create a product strategy. These are not generally changed on day-to-day basis or on weekly basis. These are set in stone, but this would be the founding stones to create my product backlog. I create the product backlog and I try to do the cost benefit analysis for each of those items and eventually fetch the budget and get that deployed and provide the product feature to my end user, and thus they will get benefit. So it doesn't end like any typical project that you make a go live or make it done and you can like out of it. It's not, it doesn't end there. It is a continuous life cycle until my business gets benefit out of it, until they reap benefit, they could do better. My journey will not end. So it is an everlasting process with continuous improvements, improved backlogs, improved roadmaps. That's how the journey goes.
So, how do you create a product vision? Like you talked, right? So the product vision and strategy is set in stone. So who arrives at with the product vision? Is at your level or somebody at the much higher level would decide to create a product vision, and how and if you have an insight into how does the product vision is created, please.
Yeah, so product vision is generally created at my level. It gets reviewed by my manager. So we have a product
Okay.
line manager who would be having a set of product managers. So product managers would handle mostly either one or max two products, right? And there will be like around, let's say, some 7 to 8 product managers are there, and 8 product
Okay.
managers will handle around, let's say, 10 to 12 products. So all this uh, suite of items would be handled by a single product line manager. This is one side. On the other
Okay.
side, we have business equivalent who we call as product owners, and the term changes from
Yeah.
industry to industry.
So
So if you
just to
Mhm.
interrupt,
Yes, please.
Gautam, so you are following the agile methodology. That's where the product owner and this are coming, or it's a different process.
Uh, yeah, so it's yes. I mean, we are in the transitioning from waterfall to agile. That's
Okay.
happening everywhere. But
Just one clarification question. You are with Cell, right? So is it into IT product or like IT department of Cell, or where you are in the scheme of things? Well,
I'm in the IT department, so I
okay.
work in the IT product management.
Okay, sure. Please continue.
Yeah. So we are talking about the product vision. So this whole
Vision. Yeah.
set of people will be under product line manager, and each person would own his product, whether it is the creation of the product, the strategy, or the roadmap, or the backlogs. Everything would be handled and driven by the individual product managers. But it has to be again consulted and reviewed and approved by different stakeholders, like the product line manager would come into the picture, or the product owner from the business would come into the picture, etc. Right? So for this, again, we have different frameworks. So for the product vision, also we have to look at what is the pain area the business is facing. We have to first list that down. What is the USP or the additional advantage that we are trying to give through this product that we have to quote. So based on multiple factors like this, we come to a conclusion of a product vision. Like it could be like, for my product in the procurement, my vision is to give seamless IT support or IT application features through automations, through digitalization, with
Okay.
artificial intelligence, and help my business to take smart decisions, give less operational issues, get cheaper products. I mean, not cheap in the sense of quality, but in the price of it. So they should get
Price. Yeah.
market best rate, and they can concentrate more on the core business thing. So this would be my
Okay.
vision, right? So this comes by multiple iterations. It cannot happen in a single time. We need to talk to a lot of business users, uh, the procurement managers at the site level. In fact, we have to coordinate with multiple sites. We have sites in Singapore and US. We have to talk to multiple site users, site managers, procurement leads, and then we come to a common conclusion.
Okay. So like for a product when we are doing with a startup, so they have much more flexibility to change things and get into a customer feedback. Like say suppose I am working in a startup and have launched an application. As a startup I can do it pretty quickly, right? So there are decision making is faster, but a organization like Cell, it's a huge organization with previously very strong management. So how does it works for you? Because you said that you are transitioning from a waterfall to agile, and mostly with startups, what happens is they get into lean startup work. Like the most important is how early and how quickly we can ship our product. How does you think it's different for say established organization like Cell from what a product manager would do in a startup? Because in startup it's like ship it, fail, and then rebuild again. So what is the process for you guys? Because the cost of shipping a product is very would be much higher for a sale uh, other than a startup.
Yeah, so you hit the right point. The cost of failure is very high for Shell because it's like there is a running machine, it's like a running car, and in that running car, you need to make a change. If it is a new
Yes.
company, so it's like you are creating a new car. So you have all the time in this world, or all the, and not all the time, but at least you have the comfort and the luxury of creating your own architecture and own design and prepare. But here, first problem is it should not hamper my existing business process. Even if I don't improve, it should not worsen. So that
Okay.
would give additional risk for me, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is about the change management. If you are teaching someone for the first time, it would be easier. But if you already taught someone to do something in one way, and if you ask him to change it, that's an additional change management headache that big organization, running organizations will have to face, right? So the change management has to be thoroughly controlled, or else because of the change management, many massive big products got failed because people were
Sure.
not happy in the change, right? So yeah, so on that part, right? Yeah, the Shell as a big organization, it's quite different than a startup, but at the same time, we cannot be acting in the same way. Now the whole world has changed. Now there is a nice slogan. What that says is, earlier a big fish used to eat a small fish, right? But now it is changed. Now a fast moving fish is eating a slow moving fish in the industry, right? So
Yeah, I guess
that is
the
a
prime example we can see in this COVID situation is the growth of Zoom. Like Zoom is growing somewhere around
fast.
300% growth, and all the traditional, like we are using Skype right now, but the growth of
Yeah,
Skype is nowhere compared to Zoom. So that
true.
is one example that fitted to you what you were saying.
Yes, exactly. So they have to be very agile. I mean, they have to be dynamic, change themselves with whatever situation it needs, else you perish in the market. So because of that, so Shell is also taking some chances now to use new products to make the changes faster, like how you said, right? Fail fast. So they're saying that not to fail, but at least fail fast and try to learn from it and reincorporate. So that's the strategy it
Okay.
is taking. But on a ground level, if you ask me, though, it's the management encouragement to fail fast, but the cost of failure is little high on the ground level. So we have to take enough precautions, not only in the design side, even if you take from the security side, or if let's say we are transmitting something to cloud SaaS solution, and in something the high chances of the hackers could come and pick some data, and the data breach is now become a big issue. So we have to take
Yeah.
additional approvals on the cyber security levels. So all these things take more time. uh, the agility is little less, but we have to counter all those things and we need to launch our products.
Okay, great. So, for what you said is that businesses, you take feedback from businesses. What are the pain points to address? Like again, I'll come to this example. Is like for startup, customers are much more forgiving uh, than for would be for sale. So, how do you go ahead and do the customer feedback iteration? Like for a startup, you can launch a product. You talk to your user. Okay, what is the failure, and then you can get into a cycle of you can have a multiple iteration before you can stabilize your product. But with company like Sale, how would you approach say customer and talk to them? Ki, okay, these are the pain points that you are telling me, and this is say I had designed a vision. Would you go and share with the customer and take a feedback, then start building, or you build and then take a iterative feedback?
Right. So we do little different. I mean, maybe you can correct me how it works in a startup, but we do little different. We try to contact our focals because the customers would be massive. So if you take a B2C I mean, in a B2B, you can talk to a customer and get detailed information. In a B2C, it would not be humanly possible to get all the inputs from all the people,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So we have some focals. Like if it's on the sales side, it would be CRCs, the customer relationship
Okay.
coordinators, or if it is on the internal, so like procurement, right? Procurement is all about my internal customer. So the procurement business of Shell. So in that, we don't again talk to all the individuals. I mean, we do talk to individuals, but that doesn't determine the product shape. It comes from a business focal of the process. So Shell has an advantage in the process. I mean, it's a 100-year-old company, so they have a very nice, well-structured process. On the IT side, as we have a focals like a design authority or a product manager. So on the business side, they have a process expert, etc. These guys know in and out about the business. They talk day in, day out with their operational issues. They know what
Okay.
makes their life better. So those guys would determine the shape of a product.
Okay.
So we try to talk to them a lot. Their inputs matter a lot to us than the end customer. I mean, they will also be involved in your product testing or cycles, iteration cycles that we go through. But the person, the focal of the whole process, right? That person plays a crucial role. So
Okay.
it's not the end customer whose inputs will be directly getting in, because every person will have a different perspective. A Singapore person would have a different perspective. A US guy will have a different perspective. Even in US, the
True.
different from site to site and business to business. So
Okay.
we try to filter it from the business focal level.
Okay. So taking this point forward, once you have a feedback from your sales team or the team that you are getting feedback, then how do you like you cannot just as a product manager you just can't accept all the suggestions that they are providing. So how
Right.
do you go about filtering the feedback that you are getting? What is the
Right.
process that you follow or the company as a whole will follow?
Right. So for this, in the product management framework, we have something called product prioritization. Right.
Okay.
So the inputs that we get will make up my product backlog. Right. So based on the vision and my strategy, I'll have my product backlog, and then I'll have another discussion or a brainstorming session to prioritize the items, which one should come first, second, third, etc. Okay. And then accordingly, we have to do a cost benefit analysis.
Okay.
Okay, so prioritization, cost benefit analysis, and IT feasibility will be covered. Like it could be happening that okay, they say that we have to do this and this will add like millions of dollars to my business, but to do that itself it will cost millions of dollars, and to maintain that it would cost in fact further. Then it may not be an IT feasible solution. So
Yeah. Sure.
yeah, so the items, right, it's not a straightforward give and take approach, rather it goes with discussion, the product prioritization, how much priority it's having, and second, how much is the cost benefit analysis, and the third is about IT product feasibility. And with these three things we can develop or deploy it. So in fact I can give an example where we thought of having a QR code based solution to a business, and the cost benefit analysis is also in support of it, prioritization is in support of it, but the IT feasibility failed because of our old infrastructure that we have, it could not support it. So
Supported. Yes.
so as a product manager, it's my duty to tell those things in advance, well in advance, that there is a not technical IT feasibility. So we need to shelve this product to at least my next upgrade of my infrastructure, and then I'll take it up. Else, all the discussions would go in waste. So
Okay.
it's a group call that we have to take.
So, who are the stakeholder in the brainstorming when you are, say, you now have the vision at your hand, you would be driving the whole process. So, who are the stakeholder that you talk to while say, uh, deciding the prioritization of a product?
Um, so product prioritization is predominantly a business call on which item should come first and second. So business
Yeah.
would drive the prioritization, whereas the IT would support it. Okay, so we will support in the product prioritization. And second point is about the cost benefit analysis, right? So the cost I would give in and business gives the benefit. So it's a 50-50. So prioritization is a 80-20, business takes more control. Cost benefit
Okay.
analysis is a 50-50 task. And then coming to the IT feasibility is where IT driven. So where IT drives,
Okay.
especially like I will drive a discussion, and the stakeholders include, we have a risk management team in Shell. We have risk management, like where my data that I'm sending into the cloud, if at all I am, is it safe to send Shell internal data, right? And I have my architects would be involved. We have a solution architect, we have a data architect, we have enterprise architects. So those persons should give their blessings, and we have a business. Uh, yeah, I think these are the stakeholders. We have some we call it as a direct lines, and some are like dotted lines. So
Okay.
it's a big list. So based on that, we determine what should go and what should not.
So
I mean,
now, since we are into talking about the stakeholders, so whenever there are people involved, there is a conflict. Like at the product manager, you will have a point. Okay, I need this a product. I need this at this particular cost, but there will be pushback from the IT team. Okay, say you want to say, okay, I want to achieve this in say 100 hours of work. I cannot afford more than this. But an IT guy would come back and say, "Boss, this is not feasible for me to 150 without 150 hours." I think this would be a very common scenario for you to handle, right? So,
yeah.
how does uh, in this kind of conflicts, how do you handle this situation? And if you have an example, obviously, I think this is a like for every sprint you must be having this argument. So how do you go about and handle this?
Right. So now you're talking about fetching the budget, granting the budget. So that's where the buck stops everywhere. Money,
Yeah,
right? How much money you want
money
to,
is
yeah, how much money you want to put in advance to reap the benefit later, right? So in those cases, right, it's definitely a challenge. It all depends upon your convincing skills, how much the person is able to present the value proposition, how much is the value that you're getting. So what is the break even, etc. So we follow this approach of 2-year break even. We don't believe in long-term planning, Shell. Okay. Any investment
okay.
that we make, it's a pure 2-year strategy. So if the money that I'm putting in, the dollar that I put in, if I'm getting the money back in 2 years, they're happy. So what it helps is numbers. So if someone, whoever is presenting, should do the homework to get the numbers correct by talking to the customers or the business, whoever it is, and see the value save that you're going to do. And if you can put that, if it is coming back, then that's how at least I crack in getting the funding for the budget, whatever it is. And yeah, so sometimes definitely people will say that no, we don't have money, we have to put it this way. So that time what we do is like, if you want have only this much money, then definitely you'll have this much functionality. Like, you will not have
Yeah,
any free
I
lunches,
understand.
right? That way. So we
Yeah,
have to cut short on some functionalities. So that's how at
so
least we do the trade-off.
nice. So I guess that's the best way to do it. Probably putting the numbers in front. Otherwise, it's hard to convince people because even
Exactly.
say IT guy will say it's not possible to code in say 100 hours. Then if you have the numbers in front, there is no other excuse that can come in, right? Without business, there is nothing.
True, true. Yeah.
Okay, so
Numbers
we
helps.
talked enough about product and management. Now let's get into you. You were after college engineering. You were in mining industry, right?
Yeah.
So how was the transition? Like, when did you decide to get into an MBA? Was it because you wanted to change your career, or it was a frustration building up working in the mines, or I guess mining was paying you pretty well than some of the
Yeah.
jobs you get after engineering. So money should not be factor for you. And so, what was your trigger to get your MBA done?
Right. So that's a very valid point, and it's applicable to many people who did the core branch engineering, and they have a dilemma whether to go for IT or not. So, and just to give information, my salary in Tata Steel before I left was more than the salary that I got after my MBA. But I have no regrets.
That you have incurring a loan for an MBA, right?
Yeah, MBA, and that too. That time I was
Deduct the
staying
loan
in.
amount. Yeah,
Yeah, so if you take the IRR, there'll be less. In fact, in Dhanbad, the cost of living is very less, right?
very less.
You have your free house, and there in Hyderabad, I stayed in after MBA for my job, and Hyderabad rentals are high, the cost of living is high, and everything is high. But yeah, that's fine. That's secondary thing. But I have no regrets for that, and I'll tell you how my journey happened. So I was working in Tata Steel as a maintenance manager. So that's how it's linked to my electrical engineering. And when I was working, that's very good overview for me to know how the theory that I learned in electrical engineering are put in use on the floor. That's the first thing. Whatever I wanted to do in core, I could do it. And second thing is, as a graduate trainee, I had almost 50 people under me. 50,
That's
including
huge.
contract. Yeah, that's huge. Contractors and full staff, permanent staff. So managing them was something that I was not prepared, and that experience was like amazing again.
And
So
just a small addition that
yes,
I would like to make. That you are saying that contract people, these are not corporate guys, right? So
yeah,
handling those contract people is completely out of the league of what
yeah,
you expect from a corporate world.
definitely, definitely. That's completely different. So
Yes,
one
please
example
continue.
was, yeah. So what you said is completely right. So they are not white collar, blue collar job, and sometimes I used to ask them to write the daily report, like what they did and what issues they had,
That
And
too
the
in
report used to
Dhanbad.
be, the report used to be, you don't believe, used to be in Urdu or used to be in Bengali.
And you are a Telugu, right?
I am Telugu. Yeah, so it was crazy. So they don't even know how to write in English, or they are not so proficient, and they had to write. So it was good journey that time. Definitely a very challenging role. My Hindi was also not very proficient, and after going there, it maybe it improved a bit. Uh, it was nice. So those are the positive points that I found there. People management, which after doing a lot of MBA, we do theory, but in practicals, I got that
So,
experience over there.
just to interrupt, like when
Yes.
this now your current colleagues say anything, do you show them from where you have come and the learnings that you had from Dhanbad?
Yeah, sometimes that helps, like to be like strong or not to be rude, I'd say, but the
It
don't care
toughens you.
attitude and all. Yeah, be tougher. Yeah, having a tougher stance. That I think all these things I got it from Dhanbad. So though in Jamshedpur, we had friends, but I think I felt like it's like more like a good and soft zone. It was like people used to care for
Yeah,
each other, had fun.
college was still most of the guys are good students, right? So
Yes.
how whatever our limit was nowhere what you will
Yeah.
handle as a contract.
True. Yeah, and that too with union. So the union was very strong there. So again, an example is that one day one union manager came to me. That was like peak Diwali time. I was already running short of people, employees there. And one person asked me for leave. I said like, no, I cannot give you leave. Already you took so many days of leave. This is Diwali time. I want you to be there. And then after 1 hour, one union leader came, a Neta. He slammed my table with a paper, said that, sir, साइन कीजिए इस पे, अगर आप नहीं करेंगे आपके बॉस के
Right.
पास जाऊंगा, वो साइन कर देगा, इससे अच्छा आप ही कर दीजिए. So this so this sort of things I had to manage, and then it was like good. So definitely the respect I got, everything was good. But if I go back to the point why I had to move on, is that I felt some sort of a saturation there. So it is a operations, right? So it's not a new thing, a project like how we do in IT. Every time it's a new project, new thing, new technology, a new work. So that wasn't there. I felt like after 3 years, I know what's gonna come next. Again, some new installation of a motor, 500 HP pump, or a conveyor belt removal or repair of a compressor. I know what's gonna happen. A breakdown will happen. I have to call somebody. He will get it resolved. I have to order some spare parts. That is like a preset of rules which would repeat every week and every month. So that's when I thought, no, I don't want to get myself locked into this vicious cycle. I want to come out of this, and I want to learn more about the organization, how the organization works, how the strategies are made, how things work at the high level. So that curiosity helped me to pursue for an MBA. So with that little time, I couldn't prepare much. So I appeared in CAT and XAT, and luckily I could crack XAT with good score, and I landed up in XIMB. So that's how I moved on, and definitely XIMB gave a very good overview of business, organizations, strategies. So that helped me. So though I went on, my paycheck could be lesser, but the experience and what I wanted is achieved. So I find that is more valuable than money, right? Which you will get anyways in lifetime.
Nice. So you had a complete full circle sort of from mining, and you had a pretty good like reason to do an MBA other than many people who just jump into this thing. So the next thing is how does an MBA prepare you for this kind of role? Like, uh, say if you had come from directly from engineering and get into an IT industry. So, do you see a difference those who have remained in IT industry from the beginning, or and for you who's come from a maintenance and mining department to get into now leading up being a project manager and basically product manager and leading the product cycle of a big organization. So how do you see the difference that MBA has helped you?
Yeah, so it's a combination, I say, of both MBA and my core experience. And not just for me, and for many people who are aspiring for an MBA, because I get a lot of questions from my close family members, some juniors, like they ask me like, I got a job, but I'm also planning to do MBA. Which one should I go for? So my suggestion would be, uh, core experience is always needed. Core in the sense like a first-hand experience of the work. The reason is, whatever I'm doing, like I said right in the beginning of this call, what I said is like my success lies in the success of my business. The person who uses this product, if he is not able to successful with this uses of the product, no matter how good I create the product with whatever best CX, UI, whatever it is, it would fail. The end user success is more important. So how do I know end user success is based on being into his shoe, empathizing with him. That experience I got by working in Tata Steel, right? So you need to understand the end user's perspective. You need to go there, even if it's required. You have to be with him, spend one day, walk in his shoes, a day in life with him, and then you will know better, and then you can do better. And MBA gives you the framework. So that's working with him will give all the pain points. You will understand his frustrations, his problems, etc. But you will not know the solution. You will feel his pain. But how to come over that pain? So the prescription would be given in MBA time. So prescription is with MBA. The pain, the suffering was with working with them. But the work that all you have to do is apply that medicine the right time in the right way. So that's where everyone's ways of working are different.
Awesome. Lovely
Yeah.
advice. Gautam, since we are that fortunate batch which started the career in 2008, peak of recession, we
Yeah.
are today standing in 2020, probably similar kind of recession, but it's more because of natural disaster. So how you are taking this, like from 2008, what you thought of it, and what you think of it right now in terms of your career, and what would be your advice on, because I see a lot of posts right now with students who are struggling with their jobs. A lot of firing has been done. People are not getting their offer letters. So what would be your suggestion? Say some young guy walk up to you, say your college junior from NIT Jamshedpur who comes and walk to you and ask you for advice. What would be your take on that?
Um, so definitely this is a challenging time, I should say. So it's not an easy path to go through. It will be tough, but at the same time, we should not give up and sit for the offer letter to come. If someone says like, I'll be deferring it. In fact, my job after college was not even Tata Steel. It was actually Wipro, right?
Yeah.
So they delayed my joining date by around 3 months. So I did not wait for the joining letter to come till that time. So instead, what I did is uh, did all my level best, tried everywhere to get a job, and I think that situation helped me to get a job in Tata Steel. Right, so the off campus I could crack it. So we should we should make best use of the situation. Every crisis gives a good opportunity, right? So even if the share prices go down, it's a good time to invest. So in the same way, you have to make the situation. There would be jobs required because the whole world is running, right? So there'll be somewhere, maybe it could be a pay cut you may be having with little less salary, or it could be an underskilled job. It may not be needing your full potential, but we should go for it. And no matter what, we need to utilize the situation. We should not wait for the right opportunity to knock. We should use the whatever opportunity that we have.
Awesome.
That's my advice.
And lovely. So one more advice that I would like you to give is, say, what would be your advice somebody who's studying in an engineering college right now? Say you've been through, we all know what we did. So if your relative or somebody is joining an engineering college today, what would you tell them the mistake that you probably had done in that 4 years? Or if you have no regrets still, what would you tell that guy? Somebody is pursuing electrical engineering today. So what would be your advice?
Right. So the thing that I learned little late in my career is that technical knowledge is needed. Okay. and people say communications are important. That is also true. I mean, everyone has to work on the communication, and I think the level of communication that this generation has is much better than what we had and better than much before that. Everyone is
Exposure is
too so high.
something else.
Right, true. So people are at like amazing levels of the communications. But what I find that can be done is it's not just about how good English you speak or how good grammar you speak. It's about how well you are connected with one another around your surroundings. So the reason, I mean, this looks very typical, or let's say very menial thing to say, like connecting. We all are connected, right? But if you see, we all are connected in a small groups, in a silos. Like maybe I speak to maximum like 5 people around me, and
Yeah, true.
I spend 90% of my time with those 5 people, right? So I restrict myself. So instead, what should happen is you should be able to strike a conversation with anyone, anywhere. So there's something like elevator pitch, right? So if you're in an elevator in that 40 seconds or 50 seconds, you should be able to put forward your idea, or you should be able to crack a deal, convincing skills. So these are the things are not just about English, improving your English or your grammar or your vocabulary. It's about how you talk, how you convince, how you engage someone in your conversation. That's more important, I find. In fact, even I'm working on those skills right now, because before I talk on product stuff, right, everyone has that personal connect. So if you're able to
Yeah,
do that
sure.
personal connect, definitely they will listen to you, they agree to you. To do that personal connect, you should be able to tell, have that good connection, and that connection can come only if you are able to talk well
Interact,
or touch their personal levels. Yeah, exactly. Interact well.
which
So
is, I
those
guess, it's
skills.
becoming more and more challenging. With like for our generation, we had a lot of personal connect. When we were in
Right.
college, there was hardly any internet. So the connection that we build, I guess, it should not be possible if say, people who are throughout on the internet, sort of,
Exactly.
we are losing that way of interaction, how to interact with people. I guess it's a very sane advice, and it's one of the best advice you can give to anybody.
True.
Okay, Kilam, so
More.
we had a serious talk. Let's talk something fun. I'm still not able to understand why and how people from, let's say, I'm talking about United Andhra guys, crack so many engineering exam and other things, are so intelligent guys. But why you guys treat your film star like the way you treat?
Film
Why,
stars, right? Yeah.
why Telugu movies come with such fascination? Uh, I'm still fascinated by the scene that we have seen in the college when Chiranjeev is running around the horse on the horse slide under.
Yeah, that's a
Do you
regional
ever
thing.
think of it? Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is, right, so it all came from the recreation mode. I mean, it's there everywhere. Even Bengal is known for a lot of films. So there are very good movies. Theater artists came from there. But yeah, and I thought it all came from the recreation, right? It all started from the stage activities, skits, and in rural times, after a lot of farming work, that's their recreation. And yeah, then they started
Especially you'll
appreciating
see the
that.
auto walas in Hyderabad. After a point, while driving auto, they all think they are Chiranjeevi's avatar or something. The way they drive the auto. When I was in Hyderabad for a year, it was like revelation for me. Dude, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Uh,
And the way they drive also, they feel that they are the heroes and nothing can happen to them.
they they own the road. It does not matter
Yeah,
whether someday there is a truck or
true,
somebody is
true, true.
walking. They are
Absolutely.
in the zone. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for the conversation. I guess this was one of the better conversation that we had, and I'd like to host you on many more episodes. We can talk about a lot of other things. So, uh, I hope this podcast helps whoever is listening, especially somebody who is starting a career, or even among ourselves. Like today, I could learn from you how things are being done as a product manager in a larger organization. So that's what I wanted to do with this podcast, like note sharing between colleagues and peers. Probably we are all working, finding some ways to work on things like how do we better our processes, how do we get our things done. So that's what I want to do with this podcast. Thanks for coming on the show, and your parting words, anything that you want to say before we end this.
Nothing. So, as you said, right? I think we all should not just restrict ourselves to, as you said, stuck to internet. Try to converse with people. The persona, the understanding one each other will help in any way, whether it is business, IT, sales, everywhere. So I think that's how what people should do. And I'll take another podcast from you maybe to understand your startup life. That'll
Yeah,
help
sure. Of course, I have plenty of failures to discuss. So I have a lot of stories to share. And with your next episode, we would like to have a discussion on how working in Dhanbad was actually. For a Telugu guy coming to Dhanbad, like, and I guess it's a time when Wasepur was also released, right? So you must have had a first-hand experience of those things.
Definitely. I
Thanks,
could
man.
feel I was there.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
man. Definitely.
Thanks for the podcast, man.